Audible 2456.
State of the Save is back with a one-off special. I'm Michael, your host for the day, for something a little bit different for State of the Save, and something different going forward here. State of the Save has always been a game club style show with occasional one-offs as sort of bonus shows, but in recent months, State of the Save has become a guest-driven game club style show, so because of that, there's more planning involved with getting guests on the show for State of the Save when it comes to establishing the book clubs, as in picking the game, talking over messenger text or a Discord channel over which games we want to play for the show, breaking them down, figuring out where we're going to meet up, whether in person or, in Tanner's case, over Discord and such. So to make the planning a little less of a headache on my end, and to give me more time to space these out and enjoy video games more, the game club format is shifting just a little bit, just so I have more time to do research on the games, more time to reach out to guests and plan those out a little more, and more time to make those even better in the future. So, in between those, what was typically topics of File Corrupteds, I am going to shift as a part of the main show. And this is the first one I want to do to that. I kind of want to do like a reintroduction into what games I enjoy playing when I'm not playing games for the show. So this is a topic I had in mind for a File Corrupted for a while that I really want to bring to the forefront here. This is my games of the year from every year since 1990. And I chose 1990 for a couple of reasons. Mainly, I didn't have a console that came out before 1990, with the exception of the Genesis, which is 89, the Genesis being the first console that my family got. They actually had that before I was even born. So I guess it's a little bit funny that I became the avid video game fan in the family, considering I was the last one in my family, and so I was the last one to play the Genesis. But by that point, after I was born, games like Sonic the Hedgehog came out and everything, and I think having a game console in the house from when I was born kind of shaped that as a part of my normal life. Like, oh, these are just things that people have. And we did pretty much eventually get to that point. Like, even my father-in-law has a Xbox 360 in his living room. Games have sort of become a part of normal life in a way that I thought they were growing up, but not necessarily what they were. So I kind of wanted to take this journey as a way to reintroduce myself to you, the audience, and to say, these are the type of games that I like to play, as well as the games that shifted my taste, and hopefully makes a lot more sense of if you go back and listen to my favorite games that we played for the show, the game clubs that we done. Hopefully this sort of rounds out my taste for you guys in a way so you know, oh, this is what Michael enjoys on his off time. And speaking of games that I've enjoyed on my off time, just because it's a solo show doesn't mean that I can't do segues. Baldur's Gate 3 continues to be a really awesome game. Not to get too deep into spoilers here, but there was a side quest that I did just to kind of frame how in-depth this game is and how crazy some of the storylines get. There was a woman who was imprisoned by a witch, and the witch was like burning her in her jail and everything. So I killed the witch, I freed the woman, and the woman got mad at me because she was visiting the witch to try to save her husband, who had died. She wanted to use a necromancy spell to resurrect him. So I explored this witch's cave to find a wand that she had to go to the burial site of her husband and resurrect the husband. But the husband wasn't resurrected as a perfect, normal-looking dude. He was a zombie, complete with, like, rotting brain, like, not talking, just unhinged jaw, making, like, rah noises and everything. The woman was, of course, horrified, and so I said to her, my character, Elias Flintheart, because if you missed my character description. My guy is a cowboy, tiefling named Elias Flintheart. And me being a cowboy tries to do the best thing for the typical person. I like to go around like person through person and town by town and like solve their problems, kind of like a Lone Ranger type hero. But despite the fact I'm a Lone Ranger type hero, I always travel around with a full party. But anyway, woman was horrified. I was like, well, I can put it back in the ground for you. And she was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep him. So the lady walks off with her dead zombie husband. And what shocked me was that everyone I had in the party at the time approved of it. Like, Asterion is like some type of, he's a chaotic member of the group. I would describe him as like a chaotic neutral leaning on chaotic evil. I knew he'd be fine with it, but people like Gale, who is sort of like more of a noble wizard type, and who does it have? I forget her name, but the Carlisle, not Carlisle, something like that. She's a tiefling like my character, except she has an infernal engine or something, which makes her very hot, like a demon, and catches fire on everything. But she's mostly a good character in terms of her like alignment, but even she was fine with it. So everybody in my party approved of what was happening here in a way that I did not expect. Oh wait, no, I didn't have Asterion because I knew he'd be in for it. I had Will in my party, who's very much like a noble knight type character, and even he was okay with it. Like, yeah, let's just give the zombie man back to his wife. So Baldur's Gate 3, playing now on PlayStation, it is still a fantastic game. I'm loving every minute of it. Another game, you're gonna hear a lot about this series coming out, and very soon I have plans for the series coming up in the next month because I'm very excited to talk about it. Over the last Nintendo Direct that happened this past week, it was not that great of a Direct for me. For some other people, Thousand Year Door fans, I'm sure you are having a really fantastic time with that remaster. But I was hoping for a remaster of one of my favorite games, F-Zero GX, a racing game, but not just any racing game. It's a super twitch, fast-paced, futuristic arcade racer. So there were rumors that a remaster was going to come of that thing. That spawned from leaks, and then you know how leaks are. They say you one thing, but then as more people get wind of it, it becomes sort of twisted in a way where it kind of gets away from the original leak, and everybody's like, he just said, hey, there's going to be an F-Zero game. And everybody was like, F-Zero Remix G-Master? Question mark? So there's like plausible deniability there with just adding the question mark at the end of that. But they announced F-Zero 99. Back to the Super Nintendo style of F-Zero. And making it an online battle royale type thing. I looked at it and went, alright, it's not necessarily what I wanted, but it seems like it might be a cool thing. Turns out it is a very, very cool thing. I played so much of F-Zero 99. I've gotten third in a mini Grand Prix, but I have not won a single race yet. And what it does is how the race structure goes. It's less of a battle royale game and more just like a straight up race with 99 players. It's insane. Where you sort of have like this on-ramp onto the track where there's a few different that they cycle through. Some maps have the same ones, but I think each map has like 2 or 3 that they cycle through, where it's basically a funnel, where each of the racers starts out very like separate, far away from each other to give each of you, all 99 people, spaced out even distance. And then you just sort of charge forward, hit boost ramps, and it filters you onto the original tracks from the Super Nintendo. And then from there you just race. You gather points, or like these sort of glowing orbs if you're in the back of the race. There's sort of a rubber band mechanic where if you're in the back, you'll get more orbs. That will let you go to like the Skyway, which is a faster, obstacle-free version of the course on top of the course that lets you sort of move faster to get your way to the top of the track. So knowing the track and knowing which areas of the track you want to skip by taking the Skyway are sort of the name of the game, as well as strategically knocking out your opponents. I am loving this. This was already a great year for games, but this skyrocketed on my list of favorite games of the year, and I am loving this thing. I am giddy playing it because F-Zero is back, and it makes a lot of sense. It was fun seeing the F-Zero community, like on the subreddit. The subreddit that's currently growing, by the way. I think it was at like 5,000 members of it before this announcement, and now it's like at 7,000. So we're gaining. It's nice to know that as a longtime F-Zero fan, we're gaining new F-Zero fans, which I think this announcement and this game makes a lot more sense now. Releasing a game like F-Zero 99 for free for Nintendo Switch Online members, people you want, if you want a new F-Zero, that's like the next big thing is online functionality. So getting people who are already in that online space to play this new F-Zero game for free is a good way to like on-ramp people into the series. So that way when you inevitably do an F-Zero G-Rex remaster, fingers crossed this inevitably happens, you're going to have more people who are into it going, oh yeah, F-Zero 99 was great. I'll check out GX. Which at first I was disappointed about, but then after playing it, I'm going, oh, this is so smart. This is a great way to get people into the series. Turns out, Nintendo, who's been in business for over 100 years, actually, knows what they're doing. Weird, I know. Crazy, right? So that's kind of what I've been playing on my off time. So now let's get into the meat of the show. I have a spreadsheet that I've been working on because every side show that I do comes with its very own spreadsheet because I'm an insane person. I made a spreadsheet of games that came out in every year since 1990. And amongst those games, I have picked a top 3 for every single year, as well as a few honorable mentions. And I kind of want to go through the honorable mentions of each year first to kind of shape what consoles I was playing on at the time, what other games I was playing, and then go through my top 3. But since release years can get a little bit funky, especially in like the 90s and early 2000s, I want to clarify some rules. So the release years are based on the US release, unless the US release is emulation or if it came out on a different console generation later down the line. For example, Fire Emblem 1, a game that I'm not going to talk about, that game released in 1990 in Japan, but it didn't come out in the US in an official translation until 2020. So I consider that a 1990 game over a 2020 game. However, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past came out in 1991 in Japan, but 1992 in the US. So I would count that as a 1992 game, because that's when we were first able to play it in the States on its original hardware. So if you are a European listener or a listener in the South American countries or other English-speaking regions, I'm not going off of your release dates necessarily. I'm going off of the U.S. North American release dates. So let's get into it. This is going to be a lot of fun. 1990. So still before I was born. So a lot of these games that I played were picked up later through collections that we'll get into when we get to it, or had already had on my like Sega Genesis, because again the Sega Genesis was a part of my family before I was. So some honorable mentions here. Race Driving is an arcade sort of driving simulation, but I love the art style in it. It's very like super early 90s 3D polygonal, no textures on the surfaces. Race Driving is a sequel to Hard Driving, but Race Driving makes the game a little bit better. The arcade version is where it's at. I had the Sega Genesis version. It's probably not a good game, but it's a game that sort of shaped. We're going to get into a lot of arcade racers here. So that's sort of the game that like helped shape that. It was a first-person view. It felt like an actual like driving simulation as a kid. It felt like the closest to like getting behind the wheel of the car without actually doing so. So that's a lot of fun. Another game is River City Ransom. I didn't play River City Ransom until that came to Switch Online. That game is a lot of fun. I haven't beaten it. I spent a lot of time with it, though. It's a simple beat 'em up, but it has a lot of style. The Scott Pilgrim versus the World game that came out in, I think, 2010, 2011, that took a lot of inspirations from River City Ransom, and that was a really fun play. Whip Rush is a game that's by itself here, and the fact that it's the only spaceship, I believe it's the only spaceship shooter I'm going to talk about today. But that game definitely defines, like, my early taste in video game music, because that game has some banging music. Even though, like, the gameplay itself is just a spaceship shooter, it's probably an unremarkable spaceship shooter if you've played other good ones, but I didn't, so I played Whip Rush, and Whip Rush is fun. And the last honorable mention is Klax. Klax is a puzzle game. That one has, like, some really good sound bites, some really good sound design, and a really interesting, like, 3D perspective where blocks are coming at you, and you need to stack 3 blocks in a row and eliminate blocks for puzzles. It's a typical puzzle game, but the perspective itself is really cool. Now for the top 3. My top 3 favorite games of 1990. I forgot to mention also that these are my favorite games. These aren't the best games of these respective years. I'm going through what is my personal favorite, and by that I mean what do I find myself coming back to? What do I find myself hankering for? What games do I think are that I look back fondly on and go, yeah, that is the game of that year for me. I'm not saying it's the best game. We're going to get into some, like, really subjective stuff, because this whole list is super subjective. So anyway, top 3 for 1990. Number 3, Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario is, if you've never played it, is a really fun puzzle game involving, it's a no-nonsense puzzle game in that you can lose very quickly. It is probably the most intense puzzler out there, and more so than, like, Tetris, I think. Because in Tetris, you have a lot of ways to sort of build yourself back up after a misplaced block. In Dr. Mario, one misplaced pill can mess up your entire game, and it's very stressful and a lot of fun. Number 2, another Mario game here, Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 3 is, I don't need to tell you how great Super Mario Bros. 3 is. It has awesome power-ups. It's probably the most fully realized game on the NES, because if you play Super Mario Bros. 3 and think that every game on the NES is going to be that polished, you're going to be completely wrong. It's the most polished game there. It was ahead of its time in terms of how it controlled, the power-ups, the world map and everything. The music, just the design, even, like, if you go back and, like, look at the manuals for that thing, the design of the world is fully realized in this game. This is what most people will think of when they think of, like, early Mario, even more so than I think original Mario. I think Mario Bros. 3 defined what will be Mario for past world and through so many other things. And it's crazy that Mario World came out 1 year. Another groundbreaker came out 1 year after this game. Where I think it's not my number 1 is that Super Mario Bros. 3 gets crazy hard in that last world. I never actually beat this game because of that last world. There's also in the original release, I don't believe there was saves. I could be wrong there. Again, I played this game for the first time on Switch Online. I loved it, but I still haven't beaten it, and I'm intimidated to go back to that last world because that game gets really hard. If you played some hard levels on Super Mario Maker, the original designers, never underestimate how malicious they are in making some crazy levels. And number 1, if you know me, you knew this was going to be my number 1 for 1990, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. Another game that's super ahead of its time. This game has, like, extensive dialogue and a stealth action game. It has a full-on story. Some of the gameplay mechanics are awesome. The music here is excellent. And the fact that this game is still an important linchpin in the Metal Gear saga to this day. This is where Solid Snake confronts Gray Fox. This is where he kills Big Boss. Spoilers for a 33-year-old game now, but man, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake is incredible, and it actually makes Metal Gear Solid a little bit less uninspired in retrospect, a little bit, just because what Metal Gear Solid does is kind of converts this game and a lot of the ideas of this game into 3D, but the bones of that game are all here in Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. It's an incredible game, and is my number 1 favorite game of 1990. So recap: 1990. Number 3, Dr. Mario. Number 2, Super Mario Bros. 3. And number 1, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. Now for 1991. We're still in the before Baby Michael times, so these were games that I picked up and played later after I was born and everything, and there's a couple games on collections that I played. And 2 from the same series. Honorable mentions here, there's only 2 this time. Super Castlevania 4. A remake of the original Castlevania, but better in every way. That whip is awesome. You can whip in 8 directions. The music is great. Just an all-around better Castlevania experience from top to bottom. Super Castlevania 4 is great. And an honorable mention here, also F-Zero. The original F-Zero is a fantastic racing game. I prefer the more heavy metal style of the F-Zero series going forward, but the original F-Zero here is super great and is barely missing my top 3 games of 1991. So number 3, Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge. This is not to be confused with Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. This is of the Game Boy line of Castlevanias. This is the second Castlevania Game Boy game. The original Castlevania Game Boy game is hot garbage. The second Castlevania Game Boy game, Belmont's Revenge, is freaking awesome. This game rules, and it's very hard to sort of explain why I prefer this over Super Castlevania 4. I love the music. I love the aesthetic here. I love sort of this more pick up and play portable nature here. All around, Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge is really awesome. My number 2 favorite game of 1991, the original Sonic the Hedgehog. This was a game that pretty much defined my personality in the 90s and early 2000s. I was a big Sonic kid. The original Sonic the Hedgehog is great. It's probably the hardest to go back to. There's some mechanics that Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 would improve on that aren't in this game, but it's a very excellent foundation. Sort of hit and miss level design here, and that is very stop and start. You have some set levels, like of course Green Hill Zone, and Starlight Zone, where with incredible music and everything that the level design kind of propels you forward. But then you have stuff like Marble Zone and like Scrap Brain Zone that are sort of puzzle focused, and that's all about, it becomes just a standard platformer at that point and kind of misses what makes Sonic the Hedgehog special. But they really improve on that with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and 3 going forward, which we'll talk about later. Number 1, my favorite game of 1991 is Super Mario World. Where I criticize Sonic the Hedgehog's stop and start level design, Super Mario World's level design is borderline perfect. Everything about this game is super creative, super colorful. The music is great. The world design is great. There's so many secret zones in this game. Every level is an absolute banger. Even the hard ones that can get super frustrating are still really fun to figure out how to get through. This game has the Ghost House levels, which are big puzzle box levels. Super Mario World is probably one of the greatest games of all time. So, of course, it wins 1991 handily. Now for 1992. Still in the pre-Michael times. Let's start with an honorable mention here, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. Street Fighter wasn't a series I didn't get into until about a couple years ago, with the exception of one game that I will talk extensively about when we get there. This is my favorite version of Street Fighter 2. I know some people prefer Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting is, I think, the original Street Fighter 2 at its best, most refined, most pure. It has incredible stages, fantastic characters, and is just a fun game, a really fun game to play, a pick up and play fighting game. I think Super and Super Turbo, while probably better, as someone who only plays street fighting games for their single player, Super Turbo is, especially the arcade versions that got ported, are drastically unfair and unfun to play by yourself. Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting is a lot better with that. I actually finished the arcade ladder with a few characters there. Next is Kid Chameleon. a Genesis platformer with a really fun gimmick of having hundreds of stages, but there's a lot of teleportation paths. There's a lot of power-ups and upgrades and some crazy boss fights. Never actually beat it, so it doesn't make the top 3, but it's a really fun game. Here's a tough as nails game. Super Star Wars. That game will beat you up, but it captures what made the original film great in terms of like its music and aesthetic, and is just a really fun game. And if you're a kid with no basis of knowledge, you assume that this came out with the original Star Wars movies until, because being a 90s kid, there's like, this is the time of like the Star Wars re-releases and like the whisperings of like the Star Wars prequels coming out. So the 90s is when Star Wars started to like reach out for a new generation, and Super Star Wars is like one of the reasons I really got into Star Wars. One of my favorite overall franchises of all time. Speaking of like really great franchises, we are going into my top 3 for 1992. Number 3 is the original Mortal Kombat. I love the original Mortal Kombat. I prefer it over its sequels because I had the Genesis version growing up. The Genesis version kind of being like a worse looking port, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know it was an arcade game. I just thought it was a Genesis game when I played it as a kid. I love this game. The original roster is so good. You have Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Raiden, Sonya, Kano, and Johnny Cage and Liu Kang. And even the boss characters like Goro and Shang Tsung are super interesting. Just super creative with such a limited tech and a very small staff that they had. They managed to create the basis for something special. I love the original Mortal Kombat. The second game, my runner-up for my game of the year for 1992 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Just an overall improvement in every way in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Some fantastic levels. I didn't beat this game until years later. I think I got all the way up to, as a kid, to like Metropolis Zone, that 3-act like hellscape, and it's rough. But even as a kid, I didn't care. I could just go through Emerald Hill and Chemical Plant Zone over and over and be perfectly fine with that, because I just love those 2 levels so much. And the game turns out it's still a great game even past those levels. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2, number 2. Number 1's a weird one, and I don't think a lot of people would have this as their favorite game on any list, but it's on mine for 1992. I'm sorry, the train is going on in the background. But my favorite game for 1992 is Home Alone for the Sega Genesis. You might be asking, what? Home Alone? Is that a movie game based on the Macaulay Culkin movie? Yes, it is. The Genesis version is wild. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it combines so many gameplay mechanics and is ahead of its time in a lot of ways. There's a crafting system in this game. So you start with a overhead perspective of Kevin McAllister on his snowboard. And you have 5 houses that you need to defend from the Wet Bandits. Everyone's out of town. If you've seen the movie, you know that everyone's on vacation and they're eluding people and then flooding their houses. So what you need to do is you need to set up traps around each of the homes by like going into this like blueprint grid of the house and setting up your traps, from like your marbles to putting a torch in the hallway so that the bandits will catch fire whenever they come close to it. So then you need to go and raid the houses for any sort of equipment that you can get your hands on, and then combine all that equipment to make weapons. So it's all about preparing for these encounters with the only 2 enemies in the game. So when they come to a house and you're prepared, your goal is to annoy them so much that they leave. So you're basically, the game's all about preparedness, all about crafting and getting ready for these combat encounters with the Wet Bandits. And it is a lot of fun. I absolutely love this game. Oh, also, it's all about like defending them for a certain amount of time too. So you called the cops and you're waiting for the cops to get there. On easy mode, I think it's like 20 minutes, but on hard mode, it is 45 minutes. So you're trying to defend the entire neighborhood. I actually managed to, more recently, when I played this again, because I absolutely love revisiting this game, defend all the houses, got like a near perfect score, defending all the houses, didn't lose a single one on hard mode, and that was an incredible feeling. I really adore this game, and I think everyone should give it a chance at some point. 1993. Little Michael is on his way into the world, slowly but surely. First honorable mention here, Brawl Brothers. This was my first arcade-style beat-em-up. Had this on the Super Nintendo, because I got a Super Nintendo later on. And Brawl Brothers was a game that my parents were able to get for really cheap. Because it is a poor man's Final Fight. But you know what? It's my Final Fight. Brawl Brothers is not a great game, but I love it. Another one from 1993, Virtua Fighter. I'm talking specifically the arcade version of this game. Because Virtua Fighter is a game that I had at my local arcade. And even though I didn't play it until like the late 90s, 2000s, I loved the look of this thing. Like the hard polygonal outlines on the characters. I just love the way it controlled, the way the fighting worked. Virtua Fighter is really cool. Another fighting game here, Mortal Kombat 2. I don't like it as much as the original Mortal Kombat because the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 2 is incredibly cheap. The characters will straight up read your inputs, and it's not fun. I don't think I can get past like Fight 3 on the easiest difficulty. Here's one I didn't play until a few years ago for the first time, Gunstar Heroes. This game is a run and gun. It's kind of like Cuphead. It's sort of a boss rush game. It's a lot of fun. And last honorable mention, Disney's Aladdin for the Genesis. Just an all-around good platformer. Not a lot to talk right at home about here, but I love it. Aladdin's one of my favorite Disney movies, and this game just has a lot going for it in terms of its aesthetic, matching like the musical score of the movies, and just having like really good design. Just it's a lot of fun. Top 3 games in 1993. Number 3, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. A cult classic game for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. I played the Super Nintendo version when it came on Virtual Console, because it was a game I always wanted to check out, but never had on the Super Nintendo growing up. This game's a lot of fun. It's a really fun 2-player game. There's a lot of callbacks to like classic horror movies, specifically the early Universal monster stuff like Dracula, Frankenstein. There's also a lot of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff in there. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Just a lot of good like references and creature designs. It was made by LucasArts, so there's a lot of that like style humor in there. The main character just looks like Bart Simpson with 3D glasses. Very early 90s stuff, but Zombies Ate My Neighbors is great. Number 2 is going to shock you that it's number 2 because it's Doom. Doom is amazing. What can I say about Doom that hasn't been said by a million other people? Doom rules. Play it if you haven't. Number 1 is a Genesis cult classic game. There's a theme here with my top 3 here being like more horror and like monster stuff. Number 1 is a game called Haunting starring Poltergeist, an early electronics arts game. And you play as a ghost and try to possess a ghost of a skateboarder who was killed by like a terrible skateboard, like a faulty equipment that was built by a corporation run by this like seedy CEO. And so you haunt this CEO's family and their mansion. And the goal is to scare them out of the house. Then they move to a bigger house, and then you scare them again. You do that by possessing their just all random stuff around their house, like a blow dryer will turn into a skull or something. You can possess their couch, and the couch will open up to a mouth. So the goal is to scare them out of the house. I love this game so much. I will sing its praises all day, every day. I love Haunting starring Poltergeist. 1994. We're going to be dealing with a lot more like arcade games here. Just how the way 1994 shaked out with games that I played. Here's a not great game that I love, Primal Rage. It's Mortal Kombat with dinosaurs. If you're a kid who went to the local pizzeria and played Primal Rage, you had a fantastic time, especially if you had a bunch of friends over for a birthday party. That is the best way to play it. No one knows how to play. You just hit all the buttons together and see if a fireball comes out. Honorable mention here, Doom 2. Doom 2 doesn't make the top 3 for me. I really like Doom 2. I think the super shotgun is amazing, but I think the level design in Doom 2 goes a little bit too crazy. It's way too big. Some of the levels, especially some of like the levels set on Earth. The first bit of Doom 2 is amazing. It's just more Doom, which is great. But the minute they open up and become like really huge maze-like levels, it becomes annoying going, where do I go? I don't even know how to get to anywhere in here. But the actual playing of Doom 2 is great. It's like only certain levels that drag it down for me. Daytona USA. A really good game here. Really fast-paced, fun arcade game. And just the amazing theme song with Daytona. Just, I can't think of the city of Daytona, Florida without singing this song. It's like so ingrained into my brain. And every arcade that I went to where I live had Daytona USA. So it's just a thing from my arcade playing days that is a constant. One thing that wasn't a constant until I saw like Giant Bomb play it, that I wanted to play it myself, Contra Hardcore. I have the US release here because of rules sake, but play the Japanese version. The Japanese version actually has continues and will allows you to get hit multiple times in a single life. This game is tough as nails hard, but man, does this game have an aesthetic. You roll out in a giant death tank, rolling over like the first few screens of enemies before you get out of the tank and actually start shooting. It's a Contra game. It's a run-and-gun game with crazy boss fights. This game rules. Now for the top 3. Number 3, Killer Instinct. I had the Super Nintendo version, but the arcade one is the one on the year breakdown. So I'm going to go by the arcade version state. Killer Instinct is a game that me and my dad would play a lot. And it was more of technical than a Mortal Kombat. I felt like there was a lot more, like, there was an emphasis on combos here that I'd never seen before in like a fighting game. And I absolutely love this. I love the look and design of it. Characters like Jago and Saber Wolf and Spinal and Orchid, they all just looked really cool. I loved the look of this game, like the pseudo, like 3D aesthetic, like the rotoscoped. I think that's right. The rotoscope character design, it just looked really cool. I loved Killer Instinct. Number 2, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles came out the same year, and you can plug them together to make Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So that is, I'm counting that as one game. The largest Sonic game in its time, just an incredible undertaking. There's a save system, probably the best music, the best level design, the overall connected story with like the Chaos Emeralds and everything. If you like collect them all in Sonic 3, when you get to the Sonic and Knuckles stages, you get to like a completely different world, and it's like a great finale to the Genesis era of Sonic. I know there's some more Sega Genesis Sonic, like Sonic 3D Blast later on, but this is like the end of the trilogy. It's a triumphant note for Sonic to go out on for his early years. And no surprise, the best game in 1994 is Super Metroid. This was a game I didn't play until a few years ago, but Super Metroid is good. It's a little hard to go back to because it's not as directionally, it doesn't guide you in a way that later Metroid games on the GBA would. Like, it would later go back to this with Metroid Dread, but Metroid Dread would actually guide you through the level design. Super Metroid was just a big open map and says, figure it out. And I kind of respect that. The look of this game is, like, it's probably the most cinematic game on the Super Nintendo. From the voiceover, the last Metroid is in captivity, the galaxy is at peace, and just like the eerie start screen and the eerie story build up, recapping the original Metroid and Metroid 2 going into Super Metroid. I love that they call it Metroid 3 in the opening credits. There's so much good about Super Metroid that it easily outclasses everything from that year. Now into 1995. 95 is a weird one. I don't have a lot of honorable mentions here. There's a big omission here. I know Chrono Trigger would be one of my favorite games of all time, but I never finished it. I played a lot of it, but I never finished it, so that's a big omission. Honorable mention here with Chrono Trigger. It would probably be number 1 if I finished it. Here's an early PlayStation game that I love. Air Combat, or also known as Ace Combat 1, everywhere else besides America, because they thought Ace Combat wouldn't sell. I don't know why. Really fun fight sim, and we're going to see a lot more of Ace Combat later on. But, yeah, this game rules. Fighting Vipers. A game I didn't play until this past year, and then I was like, where has Fighting Vipers been all my life? It's like, Virtua Fighter with, like, heavy metal, like, F-Zero personality, and man, I found out recently there's a Fighting Vipers 2, and I really want to play that. Fighting Vipers is really cool. You can play it inside of Judgment, and I think Lost Judgment. If you have PS Plus, I think you can still play Judgment. I don't know if they removed that, but yeah, you should definitely check out Judgment just to play Fighting Vipers. Judgment's really good too. That story is really long though. Now for my top 3 of 1995. Number 3 is a game I haven't gone to in a really long time, but I remember fondly, and I watched videos of it and go, man, this is a really pretty game. The original Rayman. Rayman was a 2D platforming series that I think started out on the Jaguar, but I think they all came out. I believe they all came out in 1995. I did my research, and there was no reason for me to move it from 1995. Either a launch title or a near launch title for the original PlayStation. I remember really liking Rayman. I loved the look of it. Even though it got me to stick around with it, even though I was a dumb kid who was like, no, 3D is the future. We got Spyro and stuff. Because I had Spyro when I got my PlayStation. So Rayman was like an old hat at that point. It was really cheap. That's why I was able to get it. So I was like, I don't want to play another 2D game. But then I stuck with it and actually really liked it. It's really beautiful. The 3D elements in Rayman are more like in the background to make the background layers pop. And because I'm a dumb kid, or was a dumb kid in 1995, number 2 is Toy Story for the Sega Genesis. I know Rayman, Fighting Vipers, and Air Combat are better games than the original Toy Story, but hear me out. I loved this game. I love Toy Story. This game still looks really good. I hear me talk about music in games a lot. I like the music here, and but this game is deceptively hard. I don't think I've ever actually beaten this game, but I've gone back to this game so many times, it's insane. So, yeah, Toy Story number 2. And number 1, my favorite Mario game, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. This is a Super Mario game. It has Super Mario in the title. I adore this game. This is a game I didn't finish as a child, but as soon as it came on Switch Online, I played all of that in like a day or two. And finally beat, and then got to the ending and just had tears in my eyes from like the beautiful ending, the music, the story of baby Mario reuniting with his family. I'm all in on Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. This is an incredible game, an incredible platformer, really, really beautiful aesthetic, like sort of a crayon design, like a little kid colored this thing. There was no other game that looked that good at the time. 3D, 2D, arcade, PC, doesn't matter. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is the best game of 1995 and probably the best looking game of that generation. So now we move on to 1996. 1996 was a bit of a weird one. I had to stretch myself a little bit to actually fill out 1996 for some reason. This is the end of the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Genesis was long gone at this point. It's the start of the Nintendo 64. And when 3D gaming was starting to get its feet wet and started to really shape what it was going to be. So for 1996, I got Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I played that at daycare. A guy brought into daycare, and I didn't think there was more Mortal Kombat past the first one at the time. And was blown away. That game's really cool. Neo Turf Masters, a fantastic golf game with a great soundtrack and great voices. On the green! If you know, you know. Wave Race 64, a really fun early arcade racer for Nintendo 64. Quake! I only played Quake very recently. I didn't beat it, but man, that game is really good. And Shadows of the Empire. I got this game a couple years ago and played it in one afternoon. It's still a lot of fun, especially on like the easy mode where I didn't have to worry about like this game getting too hard, because I can imagine it can ramp up in difficulty very quick. It's like a Shadows of the Empire is like a sort of a 3D. Sorry, not 3D. It isn't 3D, but it's a third-person Doom clone with really fun vehicle segments and boss fights. So now for my top 3. Number 3 is an arcade racer, Cruisin' World. I love Cruisin' World. My grandma would take me to a like racing-themed restaurant while I was growing up, and they had a Cruisin' World machine. I would play that every single time I was there and sing along to the theme song. The theme song is so freaking good. It's like criminal. And I haven't played the new Cruisin' Blast, but that also has a really great theme song. Cruisin' just... There's no racing series with as good music as Cruisin'. I'm sorry, F-Zero fans, but I think Cruisin's got you beat. I'm an F-Zero fan. And, I hate to admit it, but Cruisin' World, all-around banger soundtrack. Might be the best racing soundtrack. I don't know. Number 2 is Super Mario 64, because of course it is. I never beat Super Mario 64. I've restarted it countless times, but never got to the end. I would always play for a little bit, up until you get to the level with the magic carpet and the rainbows and the cloud, and then say, screw this, I don't want to play this anymore. And then get the game on Wii, get to the same spot. Then get the game on Switch, go all the way there and go, I don't want to play this anymore. So, play it on emulation, get to the same spot. That's when the levels get really hard. You actually have to like think about what you're doing. And I don't want to think. What are we doing? No, I want to beat Super Mario 64 someday. But there are people who are much better at that game than I am. It might just be on this list because I love watching speedruns of it so much. It's a lot of fun to like watch competitive speedruns of, and watch like different mods for watching people play it for the first time rather than playing it myself. But it's a game changer. It's changed how games were made and played from 1996 onward. Number 1, my favorite game of 1996, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. This was my introduction into the world of Street Fighter. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo is a really fun puzzle game with like characters from Street Fighter and the Darksider series. I love this game so much. I didn't know that the music from it was from like the Street Fighter Alpha series, but to me it's Puzzle Fighter music. It will always be Puzzle Fighter music. This was my introduction to Street Fighter, and is the best Street Fighter game. And actually no, Street Fighter 6 is the best Puzzle Fighter game because I can... Street Fighter 6 is the best Street Fighter game because I can play Puzzle Fighter in Street Fighter 6. So I get a new port of Super Puzzle Fighter 2, but I get this awesome Street Fighter game enveloping it in an interesting way. So top 3, Cruisin' World, Super Mario 64, and Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. 97! 2D games are getting better at this point. So let's talk about some of the better ones. Crash Bandicoot 2's Cortex Strikes Back is an honorable mention. Really fun game. GoldenEye 007. Just an all-around classic, but a little hard to go back to. But man, playing it again on good controls on the Xbox feels really fun. It's a really great game, but just wasn't in my top 3. Cool Wars 2. A fun downhill racer that sadly came out before Tony Hawk's Pro Skater taught us how to make Extreme Sports games. Parappa the Rapper. Just an all-around fun rhythm game. It's hard to go back to nowadays while playing on modern-day TVs because the latency is a nightmare. But it's still a lot of fun music and really good aesthetics. It's also really short. You can beat the game in half an hour if you know what you're doing. Motor Raid, another arcade racer I played for the first time this year. It's like Road Rash, but in space. Then we got Mario Kart 64 as the last honorable mention for 97. It's Mario Kart. This is one I played growing up. It's a lot of fun, but playing it more recently, yeah, it just hasn't cracked the top 3. So my top 3 97 games is a very PlayStation-heavy top 3. Number 3 is Tekken 3. This game rules. It's a fantastic 3D fighter. Only overshadowed this year by one other 3D fighter, and that is number 2, Bushido Blade. Bushido Blade is awesome. It's a one-on-one fighter with swords with one-hit kills. So it's all about like knowing your opponent, parrying. If you don't do a direct killing blow, you can like disable their arm. You can get it to the point where they're like crawling towards you, like they can't move their legs, so they're like flailing the sword on the ground because they can't stand up. Bushido Blade is awesome. And number 1, 1997, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. One of the best Metroidvania games, even to this day, has a great RPG system, has the inverted castle. I played this game for the first time a few years ago and was mad at myself for not playing it sooner. I tried playing it sooner, actually, in the student union on campus when I went to college. They had a 360 with the Xbox Live version of Symphony of the Night on there. I got frustrated because that game was so hard, but has sort of an uphill climb, but once you understand like how to play, the game becomes a lot of fun. I love Symphony of the Night. Number 1 game in 1997, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. 1998 is where things get interesting, and by interesting, I mean insanely difficult to rank. This was one of the hardest years. There's a few really hard years, but 1998 is brutal. We got, for the honorable mention list, we got Bushido Blade 2. Sequel to Bushido Blade that's worse, but there's a lot more characters, a lot more stages, there's a story, an actual story, but the gameplay is not as great. There's not a lot of like stance changes. It's just not as deep of a game, but also sort of overcomplicates it a bit. Stop Skeletons from Fighting has a fantastic video on the Bushido Blade series and explains exactly why Bushido Blade 2 was like a step down from Bushido Blade 1. Next is Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. Another game that was in every arcade I went to growing up. This game looks really great, is a perfect encapsulation of what makes the original trilogy so great in terms of its like set pieces. You got the Death Star run, you got the speeder battle on Endor, you got the big final Death Star battle in Return of the Jedi, you have the lightsaber battles, you have just the fantastic like encapsulation of the highlights of the action of the original trilogy. And because I'm a dumb kid, here's Rugrats Search for Reptar. It's a dumb game. In my head, I think about this fondly. I bet if I go back to it, I'll hate it. I want to go back to it someday, but yeah, Search for Reptar is a dumb game that I love. Is one of the first games I could beat in like an afternoon on a like day-to-day basis. I played this game so much just because I could get to the end really fast because I was a dumb like 4-year-old. So I was just happy to be able to beat games like over and over again. Have a game that I could reliably like finish easily was something new for me at the time. So because of that, it's on here because it's easy. It's a game for babies, and I was a dumb baby playing as dumb babies. Spyro the Dragon. The original Spyro the Dragon is a great 3D platformer. Also, the same year as Crash Bandicoot Warped. What can I say about these two games? They're defining PlayStation platformers with great aesthetics. Crash Bandicoot, as at the end of its trilogy, I think is just as good as Spyro the Dragon in its first entry. They're both peers to each other. Spyro the Dragon being a game by Insomniac, who would go on to do like Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank, just a fantastic developer all the way down the board any way you shake it. Final Fantasy Tactics is a game I love but never beat. I got to Battle 19. I know it's called Battle 19 because I've seen it on my screen over and over and over again. Battle 19. This game is amazing. I wish I could finish it. Also have here, because 98 was the year I got my PlayStation, because I have on this list Interactive CD Sampler Disc Volume 7. It's an honorable mention. It cannot make the top 3. It was a demo disc of all the stuff coming out for PlayStation, or like had good PlayStation games in the past year. It had demos for Tomb Raider 2, Tomba, Jersey Devil. It had like NBA Live, I think, was one of the games on here. It had NFL Extreme. It had Blasto. It had previews for Resident Evil 2. First time I've seen like that level of like blood and gore in a game was just the video for Resident Evil 2. The video scared me. And now Resident Evil is one of my favorite series. And another game in one of my favorite series, it had a teaser for Metal Gear Solid. I could barely read, especially like weird fonts, so I didn't know what the game was called. I just remember this like haunting, snowy landscape, and it had like a beautiful flute music, and it was showing off the Vulcan Raven fight with the tank. And this game looked incredible. And it became one of my favorite series. And spoilers, is on the top 3 for this year. But we got some more honorable mentions to get through. Gran Turismo, a really fun racing game, also was on the interactive CD sampler, and I love the game so much that my parents got it for me that Christmas. I couldn't read this, so the demo of it was set at night, so I just called the game Night Driving. Even when I got the game proper and was playing through the daytime race and everything, in my head it was always Night Driving. Turns out Gran Turismo, I think, is the best-selling game on the original PlayStation. So, this was a great simulation racer. It was a lot of fun. Very frustrating as a kid to play, like, a racing game properly. Another racing game on here that you can totally play improperly is F-Zero X. Just an all-around, fast-paced, heavy metal, in-your-face racing game. This game rules. It's one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games. F-Zero X is amazing. And now 2 games that we played for the show are honorable mentions on this list. Number 1, Grim Fandango. Even though this game is hard to go back to in terms of its gameplay, man, the story and the characters are all super great. I love Manny. I love Meche. I love their love story. I love Glottis. I love the way the story plays out and the world design, just the writing when it comes to the characters, the ending especially. Grim Fandango is great. And the last honorable mention is Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve is a fantastic, unique RPG that totally deserves a remake. This game is eerie. It combines PlayStation RPGs with like the Resident Evil games that were popular at the time and the survival horror craze. It was a hybrid of those two things, and I loved it. It's probably the easiest RPG to go back to on the PlayStation because it's 10 hours long. Which is why I was able to fit it into the show and why like it's one of my favorite games of 98. Now for the top 3. The top 3 games in 1998. Pokemon Red and Blue was number 3 because we didn't get that until way later. Even though I wouldn't beat this game for years and years later because I was a dumb kid, the original Pokemon games are ingrained in my brain. I love it so much, and it has to be a spot in the top 3 for me. Number 2 is Metal Gear Solid. I love the original Metal Gear Solid. The aesthetic is unmatched. Just the styling of it, the story, the writing, the voice acting is insane for 1998. It's should be a crime how good that voice acting is. And number 1, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The first game I played that felt like a full-on adventure. This is a game I go back to every couple years and play the entire thing. I love Ocarina of Time. And what solidified it for me was on Stay of the Saves YouTube channel, you can see an archive of me playing a Ocarina of Time randomizer. And that made me fall in love with the game all over again because I had known like basically where all the major stuff is. And so to play the game from a different perspective, having to rethink Ocarina of Time from the ground up, made me realize how brilliant of a game it is. It's one of the best games I've ever played. Probably one of my favorite games. It's nostalgia. There are probably better Zeldas. Ocarina of Time is my Zelda. I don't think I'll ever find a game to capture that magic for me again. I love Ocarina of Time so much. And it's my number 1 game of 1998. The best year so far, I would say. Now for 1999. Here's a year of straight up great games across the board, but nothing I would classify as like an all-time favorite here for 1999. Some stuff would be improved on later. Some stuff is just an all-around great game, but my top 2 came easy. My number 3 here came quite difficult. But before we get to that, we're going to get to some honorable mentions. Vigilante 8-Second Offense. For some reason, Twisted Metal was too crazy for my parents to let me get, so they let me get Vigilante 8, and that was a fun vehicle combat game, but it's not as good as the Twisted Metals, but it's my Twisted Metal. So it's on the list. Rugrats Studio Tour. The sequel to Rugrats Search for Reptar, where there's a lot more minigame focus. There's a kart racer in here. There's mini golf in here. There's a pirate themed tag game in here. But you know what? Another game I played endlessly as a kid because I loved the Rugrats. That show's really hard to go back to. I've tried, man. But I really liked Rugrats Studio Tour. Next, we got Hydro Thunder, a fantastic racing game. I know I like arcade racers, but this one is like, I like the gimmick of being on a boat racing. It's a lot of fun, just an all-around great game. Another arcade racer. Man, I didn't realize how many arcade racers were on here. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I loved Episode 1 because I was a kid. Man, Episode 1's still great. It's still a great movie, but I digress. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is a fantastic game because as a kid, you watch the pod race scene and go, I want to do that. And arcade Episode 1 Racer was here for you to play at home on the Nintendo 64. And is an all-around good time. The next is Super Smash Brothers. I rented this and was shocked to see Mario able to punch Pikachu. That was a shocking moment at the time. Especially Mario and Luigi fighting to the death on top of a spaceship. This game like blew my mind just because I didn't think there would ever be a game like this. I love Smash Brothers so much. I got Power Stone here because I didn't play a lot of Power Stone, but man, Power Stone is fun. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater nearly missed the top 3. Tony Hawk would be improved on later, but man, that first entry is a lot of fun. Then we have Garo, Mark of the Wolves. I'm so excited to making a sequel to this game. Just an all-around great fighting game. Terry Bogart's cool. Rock Howard's cool. Just a guy named Butt. Mark of the Wolves is great. I'm so happy they're continuing the series. I believe next year. Crash Team Racing. A much better game than Mario Kart 64. Just a fast, probably the best Crash game. It's super fast. It's super fun. The tracks are great and creative. The music's fantastic. There's a full-on adventure mode. Speaking of adventure, the last honorable mention is Sonic Adventure. I cannot in good faith put Sonic Adventure in the top 3. But it's a good game. No matter what anyone says, no matter what I say, Sonic Adventure is probably a good game, but kind of hard to get back to. So here's the top 3 for 1999. Number 1, Crazy Taxi. Crazy Taxi is wild. It's a lot of fun. I actually really, really enjoyed this game. It is, if you haven't played Crazy Taxi before, you are listening to The Offspring while driving a taxi through what I assume is San Francisco, picking up passengers and getting them to their destination as quick as possible. It is a very fun game that I never played in the arcade. I played the GameCube version, I played the Xbox Live version, and I played the iOS version. I keep coming back to Crazy Taxi. I wish I got to play an arcade version. If you know of an arcade version on the East Coast, let me know, because I want to go and play like authentic Crazy Taxi. Number 2, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. An all-around fantastic improvement over the original Spyro game. And like a really fun villain, really great characters like Hunter and you got Laura Bags and Sparks. Your dragonfly becomes a bigger part of the game. It's just Spyro 2 is filled with so much personality. I love that game. And speaking of personality in a 3D platformer, this probably has the most personality. My number 1 for this year is Ape Escape. I love Ape Escape. This needs a full-on remaster, like the Spyro Ignited Trilogy or Crash Insane Trilogy treatment. This game is a game where you time travel to stop monkeys from taking over the world, and you use a net to catch them and send them back through time to their original timeline. It is just a weird, bonkers game that I love every minute of. Ape Escape was a game that I rented and was like, I need to have this. Mom, please tell the Easter Bunny I want Ape Escape. That's the first game I ever got from the Easter Bunny. Santa didn't bring Ape Escape, the Easter Bunny did. This is fun. Now it's time for the new millennium, 2000. 2000 I think was when I got my Nintendo 64. It was around this time. It was 2000 or 2001 when I got a Nintendo 64. But this is when I would go back and play a lot of those games, because I was a PlayStation kid up until I got my Nintendo 64. Because I ended up having both there, because this was back when the Nintendo 64 was getting spanked by the PlayStation and just wasn't holding a candle to its sales. So the Nintendo 64 got real cheap. They released a whole bunch of different colors and like pack-ins and stuff. So this is when I was able to get mine. I had the Jungle Green version. I do not have my Jungle Green version anymore, because like a dumb kid, I sold it, and then years later I was like, I want a Nintendo 64 again. So now I have a Nintendo 64 again. Honorable mentions for 2000. Star Wars Racer Arcade is different than the Nintendo 64 version, but man, you actually get to do the pod racer levels, and it's great. Here's an arcade racer with Arctic Thunder. It's a snowmobile racing game, but there's a punch button. Resident Evil Code Veronica is on here, because Resident Evil Code Veronica was a game that I didn't play until more recently. It's probably one of my least favorite Resident Evils. That being said, it's still Resident Evil. The story is flat out bonkers, but some of the horror stuff is great. There's a lot of great moments in Code Veronica, but I think it sort of overstays its welcome, and that's why it's not a top 3 game, but it's still a really fun Resident Evil. I'm going to put these two together. Power Stone 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Two really good, really fun, frantic fighting games. Dino Crisis 2. I love Dino Crisis 2, but I never beat Dino Crisis 2, so I can't in good conscience put it in the top 3. Crash Bash. I liked the Crash spin-off games more than I liked the Crash platformers. Am I crazy? I don't know, but Crash Bash was like a party game with a whole bunch of different like minigame stuff. I really liked it. Now we got Spyro Year of the Dragon, Spyro 3. I don't think it's as good as Ripto's Rage. They try to do some interesting stuff with not optional, but like side playable characters. And it's not as good as Spyro 2, but it's still a lot of fun. I love Spyro Year of the Dragon. Mario Tennis is on here because Mario Tennis is my first, it might be the first Mario sports game, but it gets a lot right. I know how more or less tennis rules because of Mario Tennis. There's no other tennis game that I played nearly as much as Mario Tennis. And the last one for the year 2000, 007, The World Is Not Enough. I played this game more as a kid than GoldenEye. World Is Not Enough has like full on like voice acting. It has like more of a structured story. It looks better. It's probably not a better game than GoldenEye, but I played this a lot more. It mainly because the multiplayer mode had bots, so I could play this the multiplayer mode by myself, and like the bots even did some of the dumb modes like Capture the Flag and King of the Hill. The bots would actually play with you. I don't remember if they are good bots. They're probably terrible. I should fire that game up again and see how bad the bots are, because I imagine they're awful. I want to check that out. Now for my top 3 of 2000. Drumroll. Number 3 is Mario Party 2. I love Mario Party 2. Has so much personality. The boards are really great here. The mini games are some of the best. I probably prefer the next game in the series, Mario Party 3, but that one just came out in a stronger year. I'll talk about that when we get to it, but Mario Party 2 has like so much charm. The even the mini game world has like you picking mini games to play from a tree that are like apples. There are different outfits for each of the maps. So like if you pick the Western world, Mario's gonna be dressed up in a cowboy hat. If you pick horror world, you're gonna be dressed up like witches and wizards and stuff, which is a lot of fun. So Mario Party 2 was great. It has so much personality. I'm glad they did a more or less sort of remaster of this with Mario Party Superstars. That game is a bummer because it's an amazing game. It's probably the best like designed Mario Party and does some really great stuff, but it needs so much more. It needs some DLC or something. But yeah, Mario Party 2, top 3. Number 2 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. A vast improvement over Pro Skater 1. Pro Skater 2 was great. I love the levels. The soundtrack is phenomenal. What can I say about it? It's Tony Hawk. It plays great. And number 1 is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The saddest, darkest, the emo Zelda, if you will. I didn't play this until years after 2000. To date it, I pair this game with the album December Underground by AFI because I love the song Love Like Winter when that became a single. So on my birthday for 2006, I got Majora's Mask for my Nintendo 64, my second Nintendo 64, and a copy of AFI's December Underground. And man, what a good pairing that is. Majora's Mask was a game that took me like 10 years to finish going back to because I didn't want to use a guide at it for the longest time. But this is a game you have to use a guide at, especially if you want 100% collecting all the masks. You need to use a guide for. And I'm glad I did because what I found on the other side of this game is a really great story, a really great engrossing story, some really interesting plays with time, and just an incredible world, like fully realized in that there's like time manipulation in this game where if you go back and do side quests and it'll affect sort of like the timeline for that 3-day period, because the idea of the game is you're in a time loop, a 3-day time loop, and you'll go back in time to do side quests, and the side quests will get you a mask. And once you have all the masks, you have like the ultimate power of this game, and the final boss becomes a cakewalk. But man, getting all the masks and becoming the fierce deity to just lay the smack down on Majora's Mask just feels so good. Majora's Mask is great. I'm glad I got a remaster, but I think I'll stick with the the Nintendo 64 version just because it's that aesthetic can't be topped. 2001. Gonna start showing my age. This is where I've played a lot more of these games later on. This is when I would like go back and play games for the PlayStation 2, because this is where the PlayStation 2 came out. I didn't get a PlayStation 2 until a bit later. So some of these games I had played more recently or are GameCube games, because I had a GameCube at first. I got a GameCube around the time it first came out. A year later, I think I got mine in 2002. So closer to launch. But I didn't get a PlayStation 2 until about 2005 or 2006. So you're going to see some of the disparity of like when I got stuff, or stuff that I'm more fresh on because I went back too much later. But honorable mention for 2001, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the Game Boy Color. Now this is interesting because this is not an adaptation of the movie. This is an adaptation of the book. It's like a 1-to-1 recreation of the book with some cut scenes from the original Harry Potter book, where there's stuff that was cut out of the movie that is integral to the book, like the Midnight Duel and Peas as a character. Also, the Game Boy Color version is like a top-down RPG, complete with like turn-based battles and stuff. There's side quests that'll get you points for the Gryffindor like House Cup. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This game is great, but if you don't want to play it now because J.K. Rowling sucks, I do not blame you. J.K. Rowling is the worst. 007 Agent Under Fire. Great 007 game. I was obsessed with James Bond as a kid to an unhealthy amount. Agent Under Fire is another great game. Fantastic vehicle sections. Luigi's Mansion is a runner-up here. Not a runner-up, a honorable mention. Sorry, Luigi, to get your hopes up, but just not a weird game. if you go in and play other Mario games and expect a Mario game when you put in Luigi's Mansion, you're going to be thrown in for what's sort of like a Metroidvania. It's almost like a Resident Evil setup, except someone forgot to put the zombies in, and instead put like kid-friendly ghosts. And it's all about collecting keys to go to different rooms. It's like some like puzzle-solving mechanics. It's basically a Resident Evil light, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to go back to even today. The game still looks nice. That GameCube, Nintendo's games on the GameCube still hold up visually. Speaking of holding up visually, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. Some people say Rogue Leader Rogue Squadron 2, but I'm just copying the title from the Wikipedia link. Another like perfect recreation of Star Wars battles and stuff that we didn't see in the movie. Definitely more of an arcade setup. It's not my top 3, but I still had a lot of fun playing this. Then you got the first Devil May Cry. This game rules. I don't know what else to say about Devil May Cry except the game rules. You've heard it here first. Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies. I played this one in the past year for the first time and loved it. I love the Ace Combat series. The more games I play, the more I love the entire series, and the more mad at myself I am for not playing more past Ace Combat 1. Then you got Mario Party 3. I touched on this slightly when I taught Mario Party 2. It's an honorable mention here. Best boards in the series, really fun mini games. I like all the side activities, like the Game Guy mini games. There's just a lot of fun on the boards here. There's a duel mini game here. They announced it for Nintendo Switch Online, and this is the one I cannot wait to play again. I loved Mario Party 3. There's only one board from Mario Party 3 in Mario Party Superstars, which is a crime because, again, 3 has my favorite boards in the series. Top 3 games of 2001. Number 3 is a game I should not have anywhere near a top list, but I'm going to put on here anyway. Sonic Adventure 2. We played this for the show. 1/3 of this game is garbage. 1/3 of this game is amazing. I love this stupid game. It's a defining moment of my childhood playing this thing. I love Sonic Adventure 2. I don't care what anyone says. It's a top 3 game of 2001. Number 2. Super Smash Bros. Melee, another defining game. Just an all-around great improvement to an already, great idea. What Super Smash Bros. Gets right on paper, Super Smash Bros. Melee gets right in execution. So many game modes, so many characters, insane levels that are still fantastic even today, like all the F-Zero levels. Poke Floats, I'm surprised it never made a comeback, but it's one I have in my head when I think of Melee. Some weird characters like Game & Watch, Zelda, Sheik, that transforming combo. We have Mewtwo in this game. We have Ganondorf in this game. Smash Melee would be my introduction to a lot of Nintendo series. I wanted to check out Metroid Prime because I thought Samus looks cool in this game. I wanted to check out Star Fox because Fox was fun to play in this game. I wanted to at least look up what Fire Emblem was because Marth and Roy were in this game. I wanted to play Zelda games for the first time because Sheik was one of my favorite characters. So my love of Smash Melee goes beyond the game itself and more of how it made me deeper into being a Nintendo fan. And I will always appreciate Smash Melee for that. And number 1 is one of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. I don't want to talk too much about Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty because I think it's a game that needs to be seen and experienced. From its prophetic story to its incredibly, stupid but really fun over-the-top cutscenes to its gameplay. Everything about this game is just all around fantastic. I love Sons of Liberty. I adore this game. We did a 3-part game club on it where I introduced Nick and Eric to this game for the first time, and they had a blast. It is number 1, the best game rated by us that we have played for the show, and there's a reason for it. If you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, you owe it to yourself to check it out. But play the first game first. Play Metal Gear Solid and then play Sons of Liberty. There's a great collection coming out with all those games on it, so I'll be singing to high heavens that people need to play those games for the first time if they haven't already. Next, we go to 2002. 2002 is another like barn burner year. There's so many good stuff that came out in 2002, so I'm going to get right to it. The honorable mentions. Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution, a great arcade fighter that had like an expanded story mode. Not really a story mode, but more like a framing device for single-player battles. There's extensive single-player content in Virtua Fighter 4, which is what I'm looking for in a fighting game. Burnout 2. I got into Burnout before Burnout 3 and played a lot of Burnout 2, especially the Crash mode. Just an all-around fun arcade racer. Now we got WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. This was the first wrestling game that I fell in love with. It had a really robust character creator. I've made like Spider-Man, Black Cat, Superman, Batman, really bad versions of those characters all in SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. Made me and some neighborhood friends in that game. That is just an all-around like great time. One of the best wrestling games ever made. Minority Report is a bad game, but I love it and played way too much of it. Is based on that Tom Cruise movie, but Tom Cruise, being weird, didn't give his likeness to the game, so they made basically Bruce Willis. And so the premise is some future people predict that this guy is going to kill people. And he says, no, I ain't. So he kills a bunch of people to prove he's not going to kill people. This game is stupid. I love it. 3D brawler with like weird gun mechanics. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. This was my reintroduction into Mortal Kombat because I didn't play 4 at all. There was no arcade near me that had 4. I didn't play the versions of it for PlayStation. Deadly Alliance was my reintroduction to it, and I had a blast renting this game. I never owned it, but I rented it and had a great time. A great week with it. 007 Nightfire is one of the best James Bond games. It still looks good even to this day. It has Pierce Brosnan reprising his role for a game here for 007 Nightfire. Some great levels. It's probably the closest it feels to any game feels to an actual Bond movie. Oh, man, the old James Bond games for this era needs to be remastered so bad. I would really love to play these again. Here's one of the best Star Wars games. Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. A game that just, I'm going to sound like a cliche here, but it makes you feel like a Jedi. Just because of the Force abilities, the lightsaber fighting mechanics, as Kyle Katarn being an all-around badass. This game rules. More for 2002 includes Super Mario Sunshine, which is probably one of the weakest 3D Mario platformers, but I would be lying if I said I didn't love it. Warts and all, even when this game frustrates me, I can laugh at it. Then we got Spider-Man the movie, a tie-in to the original Spider-Man game, but there's a lot of fun cheat codes. You have like the Alex Ross Spider-Man design costume here. You can play as the Green Goblin in this. It's basically like a 3D brawler sort of action-adventure game, but there's like some light stealth mechanics. It's sort of a jack-of-all-trades game, like a lot of these movie games are, but it ran at a really great frame rate. It has Tobey Maguire's voice acting, but they write him to be a much quippier Spider-Man here. It's just a lot of fun. I really love this game. I realized I don't have... That made me remember that I don't have an honorable mention for 2004 that I need to add. Ignore the typing there. 2 more honorable mentions here. Metroid Fusion. Narrowly missing the top 3. Metroid Fusion is great. It's fantastic. Narrowly misses the top 3. Very brilliantly designed video game, but there's better games here. And the last honorable mention for 2002 is Time Splitters 2. Just a really fun arcade shooter in the vein of GoldenEye, but I think it's better than GoldenEye. Especially the like arcade challenge modes I find much more fun than the original game. Just talking about it makes me want to play it on my Xbox One right now, because that game's backwards compatible. You can totally do that. Now for the top 3 for 2002. Resident Evil Remake. 2002. I played this game for the first time a few years ago. Man, this remake is amazing. It captures horror super well. It redoes the script to be... It's still a cheesy B-movie without, like, becoming not like insultingly so. It takes itself more seriously, but it's still kind of goofy, whether that is impossible to have any connection to the original Resident Evil's story. You can have a connection here with the story, especially some of the more background story that's added with, like, the girl who lived in the Spencer mansion. There's just a lot to draw from here. So now number 2. It doesn't matter which version you play, all of these are fire and has great guest characters. Number 2 is Soul Calibur 2. Whether it's Link, Heihachi, or Spawn, you have a fun guest character to pick from no matter which version. And the fighting is fantastic. Soul Calibur 2 is has so much flair to it. It's such a great game. I love it so much. Then number 1, Animal Crossing, the original, also known as Operation Population Growing. This was a game that my sister and my mom and my neighbor got really into, where we all had houses. We had all 4 houses. And the premise of Animal Crossing, if you don't know, is you move into this town. It's sort of Nintendo's take on a life sim, where you're walking around this town. It's real time, so different animals would be in your village would be like on different like time schedules. Some would be like out at night more than others. You would have shops that would close and open at different times. It was just all around. There was different events that happened. So if a game said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town at 6 o'clock tonight," that actually means like 6 o'clock in real time. So it made playing the game an event in my household, like watching a TV show would be. Like, oh, at 6 o'clock we gotta play Animal Crossing so we can all visit Red's store, and we would all play together. Me, my mom, and my sister would just play the game at the same time, watching each other, being like, "Ooh, I can't wait to play next, so I can go to Tom Nook's and get that," or "I can play at this time to play bingo. What are the prizes for bingo this time? I don't know. You play first, and then I'll play after you." Just so many good memories with Animal Crossing. New Horizons, the new Animal Crossing, was the next one I would play, and I wouldn't play any others until then. And just the magic was captured there. I was so happy because I loved the original Animal Crossing so much, and it was great to have a new one after nearly 20 years that I finally played. 2003. Another great year for video games. We're going to start the honorable mentions with Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, a sequel to Jedi Outcast that involves more of in-depth lightsaber mechanics, kind of a worse story, but overall, like, the gameplay is just as fun. Then we got Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. It's an honorable mention here because my top 3 are so defining for me that I feel bad for having Wind Waker here, but just know it was close. A lot of these games were super close to making the top 3. Sonic Advance 2, really good 2D platformer for the Game Boy Advance. Honorable mention, but was never going to make the top. So again, Sonic is always the bridesmaid, never the bride with these lists. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, just an all-around classic game. This game will be better remembered as a classic than the original Prince of Persia games were. This game is still really neat. Rewinding time never gets old and is still a fantastic mechanic even 20 years later. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic would be in my top 3 if I finished it. I know, I just never finished this game. It got so long, and swapping computers at the time made me not really go back and play this in its entirety. I want to go back and do it again sometime, but then I'm just like waiting for the remake that's never going to come out. So I'm in a weird spot with Knights of the Old Republic. WarioWare Mega Micro Games for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah. It's WarioWare. WarioWare is fantastic. It's a bunch of 5-second mini games where you have to figure out what's going on and complete the objective. I played this game in its entirety a few months ago when it came to Switch Online in a matter of like a day or two. I love it so much. I have rented the GameCube version growing up and had a blast with that. That one has some really good multiplayer modes. The last honorable mention for 2003 is Jak 2. I never played a lot of Jak and Daxter 1. I played it at an uncle's house and thought it was great. Then I played Jak 2 at his house and loved it and wanted to get it for myself for my PlayStation 2. Jak 2 kind of was sort of had a shift in its development in that, hey, Grand Theft Auto 3 is like the biggest game in the world, so we gotta make our 3D platformer throughout Grand Theft Auto was in. So they kind of shifted that into the Grand Theft Auto mode and sort of made a hybrid where you had like 3D platformer levels, but like an overworld that was similar to Grand Theft Auto. And I thought the blend just worked great. I love Jak 2. There's a lot of mini games here, some really fun characters. I don't remember a lot of the story or a lot of the characters because I haven't played it since I was playing my PlayStation 2 as like my main console, but it's a game I would love to do for the show as a full game club because I think it would hold up well. It's Naughty Dog. Their writing and their characters and their animations are top notch all throughout their career. So now for the top 3 of 2003. Tony Hawk's Underground. The definitive for its time, for the next like 17 years, this would be the definitive way Tony Hawk plays. It combines everything great about the original Tony Hawk games, but as like getting off your board to do like sort of platforming challenges, but also like combo extenders. Screw Eric Sparrow. Has a like in-depth story that I played probably all the way through like 5 or 6 times. I love Tony Hawk's Underground. Number 2 is a weird one. Beyond Good and Evil is an underrated gem of a game that I'm desperately hoping for a sequel 20 years later that I know will never happen. I love Beyond Good and Evil. It is an incredible like 3D platformer action adventure game with great characters, a fantastic story, great soundtrack, all that fun stuff. It has a mechanic of like if you played Breath of the Wild, you know, like the taking pictures in the world to get upgrades and everything. That game has that where you take pictures of different creatures in the environment to get upgrades. This game has so much charm and whimsy that it's just a crime we've never been back to that world. I love that world so much. And those characters, and I really want to revisit there again, either a proper remake from the ground up or a true to form sequel. And the best game of 2003 is F-Zero GX, the best racing game of all time, the most frantic racing game of all time. I adore this game. It rules so hard. I love F-Zero GX with a flaming passion. I will scream it from the rooftops. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Dang it. 2004. So 2004 is an interesting one because there's some bangers here, but we're at the midway point for the hardware. So developers are figuring out how to make games for this console generation, my favorite console generation. So we're getting some more like experimental titles here. We're getting stuff that like kind of shifted the balance of what games were from the PlayStation 1, and now we're fully ingrained in the PlayStation 2 design here. The best 3D era Mortal Kombat is an honorable mention here. Mortal Kombat Deception. I love this game. So many great single-player modes, including an arcade ladder, Conquest mode, which was like a very ambitious take at a story mode. It was like sort of an RPG like Shenmue, but all the fights were Mortal Kombat fights. Just fantastic. KOTOR 2, a game I didn't finish because I got 30 hours in that thing and my game glitched and I couldn't finish it. So you're living in honorable mentionville, KOTOR 2. I was very into you until you broke my heart. But you're still honorable mention. I'll still look at you fondly, but with only a little bit of hate in my heart. I was hoping to get to play that again, but apparently the Switch version is broken, and they were going to do a patch to fix and patch the ending like officially for real, but then they canceled that. So KOTOR 2 is just a game that constantly breaks my heart, and I will never forgive for that. But that being said, it's an honorable mention. Half-Life 2 was a game I played for the first time either last year or 2 years ago for the show. I think it was last year. Half-Life 2 is a great game that, in retrospect, makes a ton of games worse by having played Half-Life 2 because I know they just ripped off Half-Life 2. This game has so much going for it in terms of like its physics, some of its level design, especially the Ravenholm section. How it makes the shift from just like a first-person like sci-fi shooter to like more or less like horror, and it does that transition really well. I like how all the environments are super seamless, going from one area to the other. Reminds me of like Halo 2 in that regard. But Half-Life 2 was a defining game for that generation, and there's a reason why it's incredible. Star Wars Battlefront 2004. It's a great game. I'm going to be talking more about Battlefront later, so I'm not going to waste my time here. Prince of Persia Warrior Within. It's not as good as Sands of Time. They felt the need to go rated M. There's a lot more blood, guts, and butts in Warrior Within. I don't know why they needed to add the last one, or even the first two things, but Warrior Within, ladies and gentlemen. It plays more like a Metroidvania. There's a lot going back to like a main hub and like branching paths from what I remember. And like optional like hidden stuff. Warrior Within was like, its reputation is tarnished by the need to go 2004's like blood and edginess. But I think underneath like the emo, there's a really good game here. Sonic Battle is a fighting game. It's more like a platform fighter for the Game Boy Advance that has like a really in-depth story mode with multiple characters and like RPG mechanics. It is a weird game, but I love it. 2004's has Katamari Damacy, a game I absolutely love. You play as the son, the Prince of the Cosmos, who's, when your father gets on a drunken bender, destroys all the stars in the sky and the moon. So it's your job to go to Earth, roll a bunch of people and buildings and cars and dogs and like utensils, anything you get your hands on, or your little ball Katamari on, to roll up and turn into a star. That game's an absolute blast and has a fantastic remaster on Switch. And the sequel, I Love Katamari, or We Love Katamari. Anyway, that is a remaster as well. I didn't play much of the sequel. I played a demo of that, but I really want to go and play It came out the same day as Street Fighter 6 and in a crowded year, so I haven't got a chance to play that remaster. The final honorable mention for 2004 is Jet Li Rise to Honor. This is a really fun action-adventure game. It's very cinematic. It's almost like Uncharted before Uncharted, with the way it sort of seamlessly transitions from cutscenes to action segments. It's very seamless. It's very fast-paced. It's an all-around great game. It's probably not the best playing game today. The combat's weird. You use all your combat moves on the right analog stick. And like, there's a lot of fixed camera angles in this game. It's one of those games that once you wrap your head around it, you're gonna have a blast, and it is a lot of fun. It's also really cheap. I got my copy like last year for $5. So, Jet Li Rise to Honor. Now for the top 3 of 2004. Number 3 is Metroid Zero Mission. Another Metroid game is on my favorites of the year's list. Zero Mission's great. This might be my favorite Metroid, and might be a little bit of cheating because it's my first 2D Metroid that I played from beginning to end. I really enjoy Zero Mission. I love that it's a remake of the first Metroid game, but with sort of a mix of mechanics from Metroid Fusion and Super Metroid. Also has a great like epilogue near the end, sort of like a stealth mission type thing. That's a lot of fun. Metroid Zero Mission is a great game, hands down. Next we have Spider-Man 2, 2004. Yeah, this game is incredible. It has great web swinging, a great open world New York City. It has a lot of fun. It has some elements from the comics and stuff in there, in that like they bring in characters like Black Cat, Mysterio. It's not afraid to get weird in the fact there's like a haunted house level in this game. It diverts from the movie entirely and then goes back to the movie, and it feels earned and weird and fantastic. It's great. I love original 2004 Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I mentioned the swinging mechanics and how every other Spider-Man game was trying to be this game. I played this game front to back so many times. I had a blast doing it. But one game stands above it in 2004, and it is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. This is a game that, if this is your first Metal Gear Solid, is hard to wrap your head around. But if you have experienced the series up to this point, this game is an absolute blast from a gameplay perspective. And from a story perspective, it's super interesting. It goes back to the 1960s. It's more campy than the other Metal Gear games, but it's also, like, at the same time, it's also sort of its most grounded from a story perspective, taking place in the middle of the Cold War. Like, other Metal Gear games get into, like, near future worries about threats of nuclear holocaust and everything. This kind of scales it back to Cold War time in the 1960s, as a lot of really great boss designs. I love the Cobra unit in this game. The boss, Snake's former mentor, is a fantastic villain. There's so many good plot twists here. There's so many good like face and heel turns in this game. We did it. This was our first like 4-part and our only 4-part Game Club series, because there was so much to dissect here with Snake Eater. Just an all-around fantastic game. And I was planning to go all the way up until 2022, but this is going very long, so I'm going to cut it off at halfway here. We're going to go 15 years here before we do the other 15 or 16 next time. So this will be the last year I cover. I wasn't expecting it to go this long. I'm a chatterbox, I guess. 2005. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory is my first honorable mention here. Also, I want to stay off the top before I delve into Chaos Theory that 2005 is a banger year. This is probably one of the best years ever for video games, and I will explain why as we go through it. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Fantastic stealth game that we played for the show. Just a culmination of building off the other Splinter Cell games, as well as learning from games like Metal Gear Solid and Hitman, and just being its own thing. When people think Splinter Cell, they think Chaos Theory. They think slow, methodical, tactical stealth. And there's some incredible stealth levels, like the bank heist level are some of the best stealth missions I've ever played are in this game too. And just an all-around incredible game. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory is great. Time Splitters Future Perfect. The best Time Splitters has a really fun story mode and the best use of like the arcade modes. So much customizable multiplayer matches here, and challenge maps and bonus missions. Just an all-around great package. This is a crime that Time Splitters never continued after this. Here's a movie game I'm not going to spend much time on. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith has really good multiplayer mode and a good alternate ending for Revenge of the Sith. It's a straight-up movie game, but it's a good one of those. God of War 2005. I really enjoyed this game. I was surprised how much I really loved the first half. The second half is kind of hit or miss, but I really want to play the other God of War games. I'm saving God of War 2018 for when I can go back and play God of War 2 and God of War 3, just to fully play those and experience Kratos' journey, because I really like Kratos as a character and I want to see what more they do with him here. I like his betrayal and his tragic fall as a hero in God of War, and how he was betrayed, and how that ultimately shaped his personality and why he wants to kill all the Greek gods. Blitz the League is a big dumb video game that is the most 2005 sports game ever. It's a rated M football game. I love it so much. It zooms in on injuries. You get points for injuring other players. Is encouraged to injure other players. I love this game so much. It probably wouldn't fly today, but I don't care. I love it so much. Indigo Prophecy is a David Cage game, so take that with a grain of salt, because David Cage kind of sucks. But Indigo Prophecy is a Another game I would describe as dumb. The story makes no sense, but I have shown like several friends Indigo Prophecy, and just to be like, hey, you need to play this without knowing anything about. So I'm going to do the same thing here. If you haven't played Indigo Prophecy before, play it without knowing anything about it because it is wild. Burnout Revenge, one of the better Burnout games. Man, Burnout really took a dive after this. I know people love Paradise, but I couldn't get into Burnout Paradise. This was like my last Burnout game, and I loved it. And 2005 is so crazy in my top 3. That's a crime I couldn't put Soul Calibur 3 on this list. Soul Calibur 3 is one of my favorite fighting games. Has a huge in-depth story mode. There's no guest characters here but I don't care because all the characters shine on their own here. Soul Calibur 3 is, in my hot take, the best Soul Calibur game. It's one of my favorite fighting games. So many modes. So many options for customizing characters, like colors and designs, to customizing your own characters and using them for like the in-depth story mode. There's like a tactical like RTS mode in this game that leads to like fights and stuff. It is so good. I love Soul Calibur 3, and I'm saddened that I couldn't make it in my top 3. And here's a game I could not put in my top 3 because I didn't finish it. Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. I love this game. It's a big open world game where you are navigating this demilitarized zone in North Korea as you're trying to capture members of the Deck of 52, this like terrorist organization. And so each of them are represented by a playing card, and you have to find them in the open world and take them dead or alive for bounties so you can upgrade your weapons, upgrade your vehicles that you get. It's just an all-around great time. There's sort of a faction system in this game, and areas of the map will become hostile based on who you're friends with and who wants to straight up kill you. But that's okay. If you have money, you can just pay everyone to like you, except North Korea. They'll hate you no matter what. But yeah, this game is great. It deserves another game that plays like this. The Just Cause series is kind of like that, but it doesn't have the faction system that I love from this. Now for the top 3. Number 3, Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is the definitive recreation of Star Wars battles from the prequels and the original trilogy. It's so much fun. The hero characters, this one introduces space battles. It has the Galactic Conquest mode, which is like a big board game type game. I played that at my best friend's house. I think we still have this Galactic Conquest mode going that we never finished because it was just a big back and forth for years game. Man, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is incredible. And now these next 2 games for 2005 are some of my favorite games of all time. Number 2 is Shadow of the Colossus. This is a game where it's just a boss rush game. Well, boss rush is kind of doing it a disservice. It's just a boss game where you're fighting 16 giants and getting sad about it. In a way, the bosses are the levels you have to figure out. They're giant puzzles. You have to figure out how to like climb them and do damage to them. Some are a lot more hostile than others. Some are a lot more just like parts of the environment that you have to figure out. The score is incredible. The graphics on the PlayStation 2 are insane. The scale is amazing. I adore Shadow of the Colossus. I have not played the remake, but man, I really want to. The second best game of 2005 and one of my favorite games ever. Number 1 best game of 2005, Resident Evil 4. Because, of course, it's Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is amazing. I love Resident Evil 4 with a huge passion. And we are now up through 2005. This took a lot longer than I was expecting. I was expecting to go all the way through the end, but just turns out I can ramble about games for a long time. So I'm going to cut it off here. I will return in 2 weeks with 2006 to 2022, as well as give some games that I love that came out in 2023, an incomplete list, but I can talk about my favorite games of the year. Thank you for joining me for this weird, I thought was going to be a one-off, but is now a two-off. It's now a mini-series, if you will. So join me in 2 weeks as I go over the rest of my favorite games of the years. Save the Save can be found outside of this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. I actually want to be doing more stuff with Twitch coming up in the future. Now that I have a list of games that are my favorite, I kind of want to do what Dan Riker and like the Game Mess podcast has been doing. Jeff Grubb and Mike Manati's podcast, they've been ranking their top 100 games of all time. And me, who doesn't have original ideas, is like, man, that sounds difficult, but that also sounds like a lot of fun. And now that I have a list of hundreds of games here, now's the time for me to do that. Especially talking it out and kind of gauging my own opinions as I talk about the games. But anyway, I digress. So that's one thing I want to do in the future on Twitch. Join me in 2 weeks. Please, if you enjoyed the show, if you like the new format, let me know. It's really hard to gauge just throwing this out into the void and hearing no echo back. So let me know if you're liking this new format. If you want me to change it up and just go back to doing game clubs, that's fine too. I'm just filling this out. Thank you for joining me. And as always, you beautiful, beautiful people, stay safe out there.